What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video from the 10-7 MMA channel. And I just can't stop smiling because we are 1 day away from UFC 319. A main card, actually, forget even about the main card. The entire event this card is incredible. The main event is obviously what makes it, what seals the deal. And to me, what ultimately makes it, the main event is I'm the most excited for this main event ever, but it's almost so good that it elevates this card to a level that like I've never experienced before. So, and I'm here. I'm in Chicago. I'm going to the show. Obviously, that adds to it. But I can't wait for this matchup. And that presser yesterday was crazy. The response that Khamzat Chimaev got was insane. That reception. So I'm gonna do a video later today about my response and reaction to the press conference, and in particular the way the crowd is receiving Khamzat Chimaev. But this video is not about Khamzat. This video is about DDP. Okay. And there are some things that he said on Wednesday that really got me thinking, and it made me think back to an interview on the Jackson podcast with Tank Abbott. Now, if you guys are OGs of the sport and have been watching it as long as I have, and by the way, I kind of had like a little hiatus, right? I began as a hardcore UFC fan way back in the day when I was in college, from the old fights of guys like Vitor Belfort, Tank Abbott, the original Gracie fights, all the way back in the day, Ken Shamrock, these guys, right? That were just the brawlers, the tough guys. And I thought the sport was so cool because it was real. It was not, hey, let's put on boxing gloves and let's only allow to use our hands, or let's have these other sets of rules. We're only going to wrestle, whatever. It was no rules. You just go in there and figure out who can come out on top if everything's on the line. The ultimate competition, the ultimate showdown. And so that's what got me into the sport back in the day. Now, obviously, since then, the sport has evolved so much because through all of the fights and through all of the battles, we've literally had a science experiment happening in real time of understanding what are the best forms of striking, grappling, etc. Now the sport has evolved leaps and bounds. We have fighters that are so trained and so skilled now that if they went back to UFC 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, anybody today, anybody on the roster would smoke everybody back then. Okay. And I really do think, because there was so much unknown, the toughness factor, the mental factor was a massive part of winning. Then I think changes happen, right? People get more skilled. Now it sort of has transformed to becoming more about skill and whatnot. But here's the thing, right? It's like if you guys are familiar in mathematics with a logistic function, we sort of have this thing. A logistic function is like, it looks exponential at first, and then it starts to taper off, right? What am I talking about? I'm talking about the rate of growth in terms of skill set, right? I think there was this point where it was just so many things were happening so quickly. We could have people that would just break away from the crowd, like Anderson Silva in his heyday, or things like that, where they just seem leagues and levels above the rest of the competition. But then slowly, the rate of growth slows down for the people who are super highly skilled, and other people are able to catch up because the information is spread, it gets more refined, it gets more easily accessible. And then now the gap begins to close at the top of the divisions in terms of skill. So now it's no longer such a gap in skill set. Okay, why am I talking about all of this? I hope I haven't lost you guys yet, because this comes down to potentially what makes DDP so good, which is now his toughness. And I know it might seem to be an oversimplification to say toughness is his ultimate weapon. What about all his amazing kickboxing? What about the fact that he's so well-rounded, that he's got skills on the ground, he's got skills on the feet, right? He's able to mix it together as a true mixed martial artist. But I think DDP himself says that we are coming back. We're almost returning to a time of the early days where toughness is king, because now as that differential in skill set begins to close, what are the differentiating factors? Mind, mental, your ability to just keep fighting. Now, to illustrate my point, I want to go back to this interview of Tank Abbott, the OG, my first favorite fighter in the UFC, by the way, back in the day, the OG of the sport, just a straight up barroom brawler turned ultimate fighter, talking about the importance of toughness and explaining how toughness can't be taught. It's either in you or it's not. Me and Justin talk about this all the time. I am not a fighter. I train. I love to train. But I think that's the distinction between me and Justin. Obviously, that's a pretty widespread in terms of examples is he's a professional fighter. He's fought at the highest levels. He's fought in the UFC. I've never even stepped into a cage once. But my point is we talk about that as, hey, somebody who's got skills versus somebody who's in there and willing to put everything on the line, put fear aside and just go for the gold, right? That makes a big difference when you're actually in there and your life is on the line. So anyways, just to refresh your memory in case you missed it, this is Tank Abbott talking about toughness and the value of toughness and the fact that it can't be taught.
Lives. Everybody thinks they're a tough guy, first of all. Okay. And learning a skill does not make you tough by any means. Like Royce Gracie, jiu-jitsu, right? That guy is a tough man. Don't think jiu-jitsu made him tough. He's a tough guy. He's a little guy, but tough as nails. He didn't learn jiu-jitsu. And let me teach you, if that was the case, every rich guy out there would be learning everything, every skill there would be. He'd pay the best people to show him, and he would be the toughest guy in the world. You know, fighting is a whole emotional thing. It's how mentally tough you are, the tenacity you have physically and mentally.
Okay, now obviously tons of skill versus somebody who's unskilled. Yes, your skill will carry the day 100%. But I think it is interesting, right? As the skill levels close and now we get closer and closer in skill, it's the toughness factor that's going to differentiate you. As I started to think about this and I remembered that, and I'm going to show this clip of Dricus in a second as well. Yeah, man, it really got me thinking about this fight and this matchup and made me recognize that you can't overlook that. It might seem like a throwaway comment. Yeah, but he's tough as nails. It's like, well, so what? If there's a skill differential, like for example, what we're anticipating on the ground, what does it matter? But I think it's an important point because it starts like, obviously, if you have no way to compete on the ground or something like that, okay, yeah, it's not really going to matter. But if you can be competitive and then you can mentally override some of the fear factors, like MMA Guru talks about, not panic and weather the storm, and I don't know. It's really got me thinking about this fight. I am still pulling for Khamzat, and I still am picking Khamzat. That will not change by tomorrow. But when I started to think about this, it really got me rethinking how this fight might go, and that this ultimate weapon of DDP really needs to be considered. But anyways, check out DDP's statement from the presser on Wednesday where he talks about this in particular.
Everybody's fit. Everybody's strong. Everybody can take a punch, give a punch. You know, there's some people with a bit of an advantage here, but they lack a bit here. And then it comes down to, and I honestly believe that's where the sport is heading. Everybody is so good these days at everything. Guys can defend takedowns, they can wrestle, they can grapple, defensively, offensively strike, everybody. And then it comes, we are going back to the educated brawler. It's almost where we are going. The guy who can defend the takedowns, even the technical ones, can defend the submissions, can go for those submissions, can strike. But it's almost going back to that, the guy who can take the most and give the most. Then I believe that's why that's why we developed this style. It's about putting the pressure on your opponent and throwing what needs to be thrown in that moment. You can have a game plan, 100%. I go out there with a game plan. But game plans change the whole time. You cannot predict what your opponent's going to do, and you have to be able to adapt accordingly the whole time. Be focused, see things in there that you would only see once you're in there, because it's just not possible to see in watching tape. So, yeah, it's unorthodox, but it's effective.
It's scary. It's scary. Like, you listen to him because, again, this guy, we know he's sharp as attack. He's got the wit, but he's also, you know, this guy's game planning. And he knows the game. He knows what he's talking about. He has the utmost confidence. It's scary, but that's what makes this fight so dang insane. Khamzat comes out there at the presser with absolute supreme confidence. So many people are talking about just this incredible skill set that he possesses, but Dricus is not phased in the slightest, and he's coming forward. And then he makes this really great point. It may have slipped under the radar for a lot of people, but I think it stuck out so much in my mind because it immediately made me think back to Tank Abbott, the OG of the OGs. And then now connecting the dots with this old school sentiment when the skill was nowhere near where it is today, back to present day. Somehow it's a circle. It's all going back to the beginning, right? What differentiated Tank Abbott and some of these other guys is just that toughness, that grit, that belief that you're going to win no matter what, and you're willing to do whatever it takes, having the utmost importance back in the day, then maybe skill trumping that for some time, and now the gap closing, and now we return to the educated brawler. We return to toughness being the ultimate differentiator. It's crazy. It's crazy. Now I think Khamzat is very tough too, but we know how tough Dricus is from all these crazy battles he's had to go to, especially as of late, and seems to come back when he looks like he's completely out. Is this DDP's secret weapon? The last thing I'll say is I listened to Gilbert Burns talk about training with DDP back in the day, and other fighters have apparently said this. This is the other thing that you got to watch out for. Is DDP apparently has a tendency to lull people into a false sense of security. A lot of fighters after fighting him and after losing to him have said there were points at the beginning where they're like, man, this guy's not good. What's the hype about? He lulls you into a sense of false security, or he even lulls you into thinking that you're about to get a finish, and then you go for a finish, and then all of a sudden something comes out of nowhere, catches you, and then all of a sudden now you're on the back foot. Is it some intricate rope-a-dope thing that he's doing that people aren't even able to catch on to because the style is so unique? I don't know. Is it just that he does himself get down and out, but then he overrides it with this just mental tenacity and then comes back and is able to do what he does? I don't know how the whole formula is working, but I am so excited about this matchup and so curious to see what goes down. I literally was having trouble sleeping last night. And it's crazy. I cannot wait. Even Dana White said this is the fight of the year, but I think that is underplaying, is bigger than the fight of the year, way bigger, for so many reasons that I've already gone through. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys in this video today. Let me know what you guys think. Do you also believe that perhaps this toughness is DDP's ultimate weapon? How do you see this going? Let me know in the comments. Click that like button if you like the video, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you guys so much for joining. Take it easy.